The books that I read for the last 40 years, and today I have my special guest. He's an entrepreneur, author, and a deep thinker at the intersection of integrity, responsibility, and human connection. Other than Mr. W.B. Dale.
All right.
Welcome, Mr. W. Dale on Book 101 Review. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
Yeah. So I'm W.B. Dale. I'm based in Washington, D.C. I'm a local author to Washington, D.C. I have been in the process of building out a series of children's book over the past few years and just really excited at this point in time. I have a career that's been focused on really allowing others to grow. I've had a long history of working in the diversity and inclusion space. And now I'm just really excited to help people take home a message that will fundamentally, I believe, change how they look at life. So that's the work that I'm doing through the kids book. I also am starting a home health care business. It's a larger global initiative to holistically treat people in all the domains of health. So I'm glad to be on the show, Daniel, and thanks for having me.
Welcome, Mr. WB on Book 101 Review, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom thank you. So, people, Mr. WB is the author of the upcoming book, Benny's Filter. So, let's talk about this, Mr. WB. The phrase Benny's filter is intriguing. What does filter represent? Was it protective mechanism, a distortion of reality, or something else entirely? And who is Benny? A real person, a composite character, or respect of yourself?
So Benny is essentially a composite of the childlike version of me. In the story, Benny's Filter is a three-part series. The first book is focused on unapologetic self-acceptance. Book two is focused on staying true to yourself, and book three will be focused on healing. It kind of goes through the journey that I experienced acquiring vitiligo at a very young age and having to adjust that identity perspective as it relates to vitiligo and how it impacted me personally. But the message behind this book is actually a take home message for everyone because when I was around 9 years old, when I had vitiligo, my stepmom came up to me and she said, "You know, you got vitiligo, and there's some people that aren't going to like you because of that. Just bottom line. But that's your filter. And that lets you know who you actually need to allow and bring close to you." And I took that message home and I never looked at it any different. I always said, "This is how I come. If you don't like me the way I am, I'm good with that. I'm good with who I am." And what I came to understand over time, so to answer your question about the filter, I came to understand that message of self-acceptance and being able to use that as, the condition as a filter for people that need to get close to me. And so that's the message I want everyone that reads this book to be able to take home is if you have a mindset that allows you to look at these things, I call it baggage, whatever that might be. You may not have vitiligo. Maybe you have something else going on that you think people are going to hold against you. Using that as a filter is an awesome mental model to apply to that. So that's the storyline behind the concept of a filter.
Very well said, Mr. WB. The filters can both clarify and obscure. In the story, does Benny's filter ultimately help him so more clearly, or does it keep him from seeing something or someone he needs to see?
I think it allows him to process what's going on because in life, right, and especially as a child, there are people that will come to you and they will say terrible things to you, whether they mean to or not. Like it was often a question that I would be asked. I'd have a child look at me and they'd say, "What's wrong with your skin?" Like they'd be curious, right? Because they haven't seen something like this, even though a lot of people have it. Most of them are very fair skinned. So the difference between complexion isn't that much. But um, for Benny in the book, the filter actually helps him process, hey, people have been unkind to me. I was very popular, essentially, and now I'm not as popular. But what it comes down to is those weren't all necessarily people that you needed around you. They weren't necessarily into you in your fullness, right? And so that's really the lesson that he takes away from the filter is he sees who's really valuing him for who he is.
Well said, Mr. WB. Yes, people are cruel, especially if they are Christian. What was the seed, the single moment, image, or realization that made you know you had to write this specific story about resilience and self acceptance?
So it really came down to two key moments. The first moment, I was looking to build a public speaking career, and I was speaking to I would like to call him a big supporter of mine, William King Hollis, and he told me that I really needed to write a book. I really needed to write this book in particular because he came across people that had vitiligo, and he didn't really know exactly what to say to them. And this book is intended to reach a global audience. I also decided to self-publish it because I didn't want to cut the message in a way that would lose the impact of what people actually experience. And I have gotten some feedback about that, but overall the book's been very positively received. But there are people that question some of the language in the book. It is edgy to some people because we're very specific about what people have said and said to me at a young age. But I think that that's helpful for people to understand why that filter is so important. And so in that moment when he said you have to write this book, I took note of it. And as I was sharing the book in its early stages, more adults that were involved in the process of reviewing the content said, "I really wish I would have had this message when I was younger. It took me so long to get to this point. I'm in my 30s, I'm in my 40s, and I really wish I would have had this message when I was younger because I'm dealing with or I dealt with X, Y, or Z." And they didn't have vitiligo. None of them had vitiligo. But they all said, this message would have been so valuable to me as a kid. So that just really affirmed me on the path that I'm going with making sure to not soften the message in a way that it's not real. I really wanted this book to be sensitive to the lived realities and experiences that people face and authentic in a way that met them where they're at. And I took a lot of care in how that comes across. And there's a redemptive arc in the story. But there's a low point that I think we all come down to. And that question is, will I be accepted? And that question is answered in the books. And so all those pieces led to me putting this work together, Daniel.
Mr. WB, you choose to tell the story through fiction rather than a memoir or self help book. What freed you to explore these themes through a character, and what did fiction allow you to stay or say that you could not have said directly?
Well, one of the things that fiction, the beauty of fiction, is it allows you to suspend disbelief for a little bit. It allows you to be more objective in how you're taking in the content. It's not just about the story's really not about me, even though it's my story, right? It's definitely my story. And if I had not taken on that early message of this is a filter, let's walk down that path, I would not have taken the step out to become an actor. I would not have taken the step out to actually become a professional actor in a Hollywood movie. Those things don't happen without that foundational piece. But I really wanted a story that's going to impact and change people's worldview and perspective. And so I've taken some creative licenses that my own story wouldn't allow for. Like in the story you see in the cover there, Benny has an African American father. He has a mother who's from India, the country.
Mm.
And the reason for that is this: it's not about trying to boost sales, it's actually about trying to connect a lived experience. There was a study that came out in India that said about 40% of people that have vitiligo consider taking their own lives. And this was very similar to the message that William gave me. He's like, people, they don't know what to do. And there's people all over the world with this condition that it's not as gentle as it might be in the United States, where there's some social um, influences to not be as harsh towards people. It's not the same everywhere across the globe. And so for me, being able to write the book in a fiction allows me some of the creative licenses to connect this story to more people and more audiences because it's a pretty durable message that cuts across culture.
Mr. WB, resilience is often framed as a bouncing back. but your book adds self acceptance to the equation. Do you see true resilience of bouncing back to who you were or bouncing forward into who you were always meant to become?
I think self acceptance, right, is the foundation to resilience. And that looks different in different stages of the process, right? Like we all get hit with something that we may not have planned. But if we accept who we are and what we're capable of, that to me gives us the footing. And I use the analogy of, right, let's say you're hiking up one of those mountains that has one of those pathways going around it, and all of a sudden both sides of that path fall out from, behind you and ahead of you, and you're just on a ledge, right? If you went with your friends, it doesn't matter. No one else is coming to get you. You're gonna have to figure it out. You're gonna have to find a foothold to get to a different spot safely. And I look at resilience in the same way. And your foothold to me is at the end of the day what you have to bring to the table. That self acceptance, that self um, belief to say, you know what, I've actually been through some things. I've been through worse than this, maybe. I have it within me to move forward. And so I think that piece of being able to couple adversity with kind of self belief and self acceptance is important part of the resilience arc.
Well said. Well said, Mr. WB. What is the most difficult thing you've ever had to accept about yourself? And did the personal struggle find its way to Bernie's or Benny's journey?
I think the hardest lived reality to accept about myself was, I have vitiligo, and people that have vitiligo, they always say it's not the same every day. It's like a continual journey of acceptance. It's like a continuum. You get one spot here, okay, you're used to that. All of a sudden you got another spot. Now you have to get used to that and accept that, right? That's a lived reality for a lot of people. For me, my identity and the way it showed up for me was pretty consistent for a very long period of time. Like from the age of, let's say, maybe 21 to my late 30s, my skin and pigment, the progression had essentially stopped. I had a fixed identity and maybe some small changes around the edges. But during the COVID time period, my skin rapidly changed to where I was depigmented in a large portion of my body. And that was a lot, right? That was a lot to process where, you're used to things being one way, and now all of a sudden you're an adult and you are visible. You're highly visible at work in terms of the role that you do. A lot of people see you. And as a man, I'm not comfortable and used to wearing makeup to conceal or anything like that in perfection. And so all of a sudden, my face is primarily white, and everywhere else on my body is primarily white. And so not only that, but I'm also a black man, and now I'm white. It's just this huge, that was a very difficult experience for me, having that happen so suddenly and progressively over that period of time. So, I mean, I can add to that if you like, but I'm
Yes,
open
go ahead.
to.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So, and this is part of the narrative that I think is so important, right? Is I had to re-accept myself in that state of affairs, so to speak. But the other part of it was it made me even more determined because for a long time I was kind of just like locked into self acceptance and able to say like, this is how I look. I'm fine with this. This is all right. But when it all changed, kind of within a, like, I would say 3 month time period, I went from what I was for the past 15 years to all of a sudden I am very much white, and not fully white either. Like it's just hard to explain, and you can't see it today. But it made me more determined to not only accept myself and try to get to where I could accept myself, but to try to get to the bottom of what was going on. Because I look at what is going on, well, what was going on for me, and I said, this is like, this is your body telling you something. And what's happened, there's a possibility to recover. if you find a way, if you can find a way. So I spent a lot of time and money working with different health professionals to try to get some answers. And long story short, I didn't get any answers. I spent a lot of money and wasn't making progress. It was very frustrating. But I found a coach who actually had vitiligo himself, and he recovered 80% of his pigment with the protocol that he went through. And I said, I have no other option. I've tried so many different things, and I'm not willing to give up and say I don't need my pigment, so I'm going to become fully white. I think that for me, my pigment was very important to be a part of my identity. And quite frankly, I appreciated the challenge that was presented. And so I started his protocol and I worked with him for about 6 months. And I started to quickly and rapidly regain my pigment. And so much so that people in the vitiligo community, I would post pictures on the Facebook groups. There's some pretty large Facebook groups about it. They would see the pictures, and some people would actually say, "This is not real. This is a scam. This is something going on." I was like, "This is me. This was me. This is me now." And so I just, that was a hard moment, but it's also a part of the reason why there's a three parts to the story. And that's about the healing part, because I think it's not enough to, you know, peak at self acceptance. We have to try to find ways to heal and get better. And so that's what I would say about that. And it really inspired me to continue pushing through writing the book, because as I was recovering and repigmenting, there was progress being made on Benny's filter. I was more excited to tell this story and more resolved to do so.
Beautifully articulated, Mr. W. Yes, everybody wants healing, especially if you are, well, victim of those cruelty in life. Or Mr. WB, you are entrepreneurs as well as an author. In what ways has a building a business required the same kind of resilience and self-acceptance that Benny had to find?
Yeah, there's some different pieces there with running a business. I've had businesses where I wasn't as successful as I wanted to be early on, and those moments humble you. And getting back to that analogy of self acceptance, is some of it is realizing, hey, I'm not great at this. I need to get some help, right? I need to get some support to make and get to the next place, or I need to grow. I need to challenge myself to stretch a little bit. And I think that resilience is a key part of um, of being able to move forward in business, because there's going to be hard moments no matter what how successful your business has been in the past. In the future, it's uncertain. I work for a lot of large companies that are number one in the world at what they do. It's kind of funny to me. I had my own opportunities to run businesses in the past. I was working in corporation for many years, in corporations. All of them were number one in the world at what they did. And what I noticed is, in their story, there was always challenges. One company's mantra was swim upstream, which means obviously going up a very difficult path. Another company was be okay being misunderstood for a while, right? Those things really, and then the last company I worked for, the analogy was bore through granite. You're gonna have to go through some hard times. And one of my favorite speakers, he actually says, the road to success is a dogfight. And for people to not have that mettle and not believe that it's going to be hard at some point in time, I think it's doing them a disservice, right? Because the journey is going to be, I'll just use his language, Eric Thomas, it's going to be a dogfight. And so I think in the book, Benny gets an early lesson in resilience and bouncing back and putting on, I'm not going to share too much more from the book because I don't want to basically read the whole book here. But he does learn
Spoilers.
early on how to be resilient, and I think it's important. But I want to invite everyone that is on the show here listening to think of those moments when you had to be resilient, and understand that those moments probably shaped where you're at today and how you were able to get through them. And there's an invitation every tomorrow invites a new invitation to be resilient. So that's what I think.
Definitely, definitely being resilient is something else. those experience will mold you to be a better person, and be grateful for those people, because without them you're better now than before. You think deeply about life big themes. What's a question you find yourself turning over in your own mind and late at night, and that you have not yet found an answer to?
A big question that I constantly ask is, am I doing enough fast enough to meet the purpose I'm here to deliver? And that's a question that I challenge myself, and then if I don't feel the answer is yes, I start to ask, well, what am I doing that's getting in my way?
Hmm.
And as I look at those, those two questions are really good um, anchor points for me. And they also feed into a philosophy that I do have, and that is all of us are here for a purpose, whatever that purpose may be. It's in our heart to kind of pursue. We know it, we feel it, if we think about it. And then sometimes I feel we can get a little bit stuck on how we get there and be very, you know, rigid about how we get to that purpose. And what I've learned over time in my belief, and it helps me with those two calibrated questions, is you need to be flexible about the how, but inflexible about the why and what that purpose is all about that you're here to serve. So that's what keeps me up at night at times, not every night.
Well said, Mr. WB. Before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in sixth season, abstract poetry in third season, and of course my book 101 review in sixth season too, a comedy 101 in fourth season, and of course my food 101 in sixth season as well, geography 101, love letters, movie 101 review, music 101 our fifth season, science 101, sex 101 in its fourth season, and of course trivia 101, motivation 101, and spiritual awakening 101, entrepreneurship 101, law 101, mental health 101, coaching 101, and of course Bible verses 101. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So Mr. WB, after writing a book that digs deep into identity and acceptance, is there a question you wish in an interview you would ask you? What one that would you get the heart of why you write and you were becoming?
So why I write and who I'm becoming. Is that the
Yeah.
so why I write is I've always wanted to write since I was small. When I was getting vitiligo, essentially, is when I started writing my first children's book. And I write because it helps me express all the thoughts and ideas that are in my head, and it challenges me to communicate them in the most effective way. And who I'm becoming to me is a person that has taken in a lot of positive insights about life. And in this period of time, it's to me, it's time to start sharing those ideas and insights with more of the world in ways
Mhm.
that are.
Very well said, Mr. WB. So, can you please invite the listeners to support Ben's Filter?
Yes. So Benny's Filter is coming out globally on April 7th of 2026. It's available for pre-order on Amazon right now. We have the ebook available. It will be available in hard cover and paperback, as well as electronically, in English, Hindi, and Spanish. So I hope you buy a copy, and I hope you give a copy to a friend, because I really do believe this book has the power, the message to change millions of lives, and I hope it does. So thanks again.
Certainly. Definitely, we congratulate you for doing that, Mr. WB, and looking forward for more books like this to come. So, Mr. WB, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Welcome, people. See you soon. I'm inviting you to be part of my Entrepreneurship 101, and let's talk about entrepreneurship mindset, and let's promote your book over there. Okay, Mr. WB?
All right.
So,
Thank you.
Marticon people, see you soon.